Chapter 1: Background and its setting. This chapter contains the background and settings of the study, which includes the introduction, background of the study, statement of the problem, significance of the study, scope and delimitation, and definition of terms. Introduction. There is constant conversation in the education sector about how teachers might instruct students more successfully. While there is constant debate about how the benefits and drawbacks of traditional versus non-traditional schooling, the reality is that certain students need various approaches to learning. One strategy that teachers are using in some capacity within their educational programs is the student-centered approach to learning. The teaching approach known as student-centered learning aims to make connections between what students learn in the classroom and their interests. Making the educational experience more meaningful for the students is the ultimate goal. Framing classes around the interest is the greatest approach to achieve that, since it will motivate the students to participate more in the content and improve their learning. Giving students more responsibility for making decisions can take any forms, but in general, they'll have comparable features like more student-led learning, small groups debate, and activities. This is a mixed method research that will use survey questionnaires to gather data. The researchers will use random sampling to choose the participants, which is the high school students. The findings of this study will determine the impact of student-centered learning to the academic performance of the students. Background of the study. Student-centered education is an approach that places emphasis on catering to the needs and abilities of each student. Instead of relying on teaching methods, student-centered learning promotes collaboration, critical thinking, and active participation. The goal is to warm students and allow them to take ownership of their education. Research has indicated that this approach can have an impact on student learning outcomes. As stated by Sanyos, student-centered learning offers benefits, including improved learning outcomes, increased student engagement, and the development of lifelong learning skills. By participating in their educational journey, students who engage in student-centered learning achieve better results with deeper understanding and active thinking. This hands-on approach generates levels of engagement, which encourage motivation and curiosity. Moreover, learners develop skills such as goal setting, all integral to learning and preparing them for future challenges beyond college. The majority of the time, the classroom will be busy and boisterous, which is one of the biggest drawbacks of this. The class disciplines would be worse. It is possible that some crucial information will be overlooked by the students as they change of their education. The issue of introverts and students who would rather study alone comes up. Collaborative education might prove challenges. Various studies have indicated a connection between achievement and the implementation of student-centered learning. Engaged students are more likely to remember and effectively apply what they have learned. Student-centered learning methods such as problem-solving, analytical thinking, and collaborative dialogue have demonstrated their ability to enhance reasoning and critical thinking abilities. Additionally, by enlisting a sense of accomplishment in students, this approach can boost their self-confidence and academic performance. Statement of the problem. The purpose of this mixed method research is to determine the impact of student-centered learning in the academic performance of the students. This research focuses on the high school students of Godwin's Montessori School for the second semester of the school year 2023-2024. 1. What are the factors of student-centered learning that may affect the academic performance of the students? 2. What are the difference in students' motivation and engagement levels between student-centered techniques and teacher-centered method? And 3. How does student-centered learning have its impact to the academic performance of the students? Significance of the study. The purpose of this study is to determine the impact of student-centered learning to the academic performance of the high school students at Gladden's Montessori School. Giving high school students some control over their education can assist to boost motivation and engagement. As this study aims to do, the following people are likely to benefit from this research. Students. This study will help them to learn from one another in gaining critical social and communication skills and also It improves recall information and subject thought over time. Parents. This study will benefit them by providing them with a thorough grasp of the impact of student-centered learning to the academic performance of the students. This study will assist them and will have greater understanding to gain additionally insight into student-centered learning. Teachers. This study will benefit them to incorporate student-centered learning into their teaching practices. Additionally, this research will help them in comprehending the students to the focal point of the learning process. Future researchers. The results of this study will be beneficial to them because they would have a significant influence in them. In addition, to motivate them to consider what and how they are learning. And lastly, school administration. This study will help them to have a better understanding of student-centered learning. Scope and delimitation. This study dealt on the impact of student-centered learning to the high school students. The impact are determined through the perspective of the student service questionnaires are used to collect data regarding the impact on academic performance. This study is conducted with 100 respondents from high school students at Godwin's Montessori School. This study determined the impact of student-centered learning on students' academic performance. It will occur in between the academic year of 2023-2024. Definition of terms. Student-centered learning. Connection between what students learn in the classroom and their interests. Operationally, this is the independent variable of the study. Academic performance. The performance of the student in the classroom. Operationally, this is the dependent variable of the study. Students. An individual who is learning and approach different types of method. Chapter 3. Methodology. This chapter includes the research design, the sample, the instruments, the intervention, if research is experimental, the data collection, and the plan for data analysis. Research designs. Research designs are the specific procedures involved in the research process: sampling, data collection, and data analysis. The sample. The first step leading to the process of collecting quantitative data is to identify the people and places you plan to study. This involves determining which group of people will you study, who, specifically these are people, and how many of them you will need to involve. The instruments. This refers to the questionnaire or data gathering tool to be constructed, validated, and administered. Intervention. Clearly and completely describe how the intervention will be implemented, such that the reader can replicate the intervention. Describe what happens in comparison with. Data collection procedure. Quickly describe whose permission will be sought and arrangements to make the administered instruments. Describe when instruments will be administered and who will administer them. Add details on arrangements and administration of instruments, if needed. Plan for data analysis. This section indicates how the data will be analyzed and reported if it should specify the qualitative and/or quantitative methods that will be used in analyzing the data gathered for research.